Right. So an official good afternoon. We were kind of chatting there within the first couple of minutes, but still it's just 1 minute past one, right? Anyway, I want to get straight into it. So the only thing I'll do, I'll kind of just recap by one, sort of sentence anyway, that there are three main reasons to manage health and safety. The three reasons are called the moral reason. The other one is called a financial reason. And of course, the last one out of the three is called a legal reason. Now, each of them are different. Moral is not legal, and moral is not financial, and vice versa. If you check it the other way too, legal is not moral, and legal is not financial, right? There may be some fees included in legal, but when you say legal, you talk about like the law itself, then as opposed to the money associated with the fines, right? So last week we did the moral reason to manage health and safety. Let me just try to admit somebody. Whatever the Zumba is in the way of the person, right? Right. So this should get through there. We have Mandolin and I did it so fast I didn't see who the other one was, right? Yeah. So the three reasons to manage health and safety: moral, legal, financial. So who remembers what moral was all about? Like what do they mean by moral? There's a moral reason to manage health and safety. What does that really mean?
Moral meaning it's the right thing to do.
Very good, Keisha, right? So moral meaning is the right thing to do. Um, I guess in any, remember your questions, right? I mean, it's the start of the class, but we kind of reflected on a question that in any question there is a case study. So you'd see one today. I have intent to do one today, right? And if they say what are the moral reasons to manage health and safety, the trick with tertiary education though is that it's not just regurgitation then, it's kind of more interpretative. So you have to look at the passage and see if you could find, well, what the managers did and was it the right thing to do, right? Last week I also introduced a verb table. I think I did because I remember doing it. That was the verb comment. Anybody remember what the verb comment means? Like what does comment mean to do? When they say comment
Mm,
on,
mm,
say it again.
Your
It means to
opinions.
give
Very good, your opinion, right?
your
So
point of view.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's kind of how you see it. It's like if you read the case study and they said the manager did conduct the investigation, well, you can say, well, morally he did what was right. And you have to code the lines, right? You have to code the lines to support what you're saying. That same case study later on as you read, it may have something like the manager spoke harshly to a worker. So then you can say morally, they didn't communicate effectively with the worker, right? So that's the thing about your opinion. Your opinion could be a pro and a con then. So with the answers, you can mix the answers like that. It's kind of how you see it in the case study, is how you see it, right? How you see it is how you see it, right? And like I said, hang on a bit today. We'll try to find one, possibly something with legal or financial, right? So if you have the books, I have mine. Um, I think we have the same edition of the book. So you could probably look at your page 4. You should see this heading, and I'll change my heading to on the slide. It should be the financial reasons, right? I am actually using a book from your stock. So I think just let's confirm if that's on your page 4. I think I'm using one of the books from your
Yeah,
stock.
same thing.
Okay, good. Yeah, great. Because what happened, I was using it this morning. What happened, Neboshas? The work doesn't change, but the pages fall out of sync. So I was using it this morning for a class I had in April, which is just the month before y'all. And the pages wasn't lining up. So then I said, okay, I think I'm using the me batch of books, right? So that's happening anyway. But anyway, you take it, the work is the same, right? So if you look at that page, you're gonna see the financial reasons I'm managing health and safety. Let's go into that. I'll do a brief explanation of it. We are coming back to legal, right? So I skipped this slide with legal because That's how your book had it, right? The book have moral. If you look at the heading, they have morals and money, right? So I did moral last week. We're gonna do financial now, and we'll come back to legal. Moral should finish by 1:30, right? We shouldn't. Sorry, not moral. Financial should finish by 1:30. Financial is easier than legal, right? All right. Let me read one or two slides, and then I'll explain, right? Because if I explain first, uh, it mightn't have any reading to do. So let me read one or two slides first, and then I'll explain, right? So accidents result in both direct and indirect costs. If you have your book, you could cast your eyes on page 4. You'll see the same thing. You'll see it on page 5 too, right? It is estimated that the indirect costs or the hidden costs can be 36 times greater than the direct cost of an accident. Direct costs can be insured and uninsured. In fact, just to make it clear for you, most people replace the words. Instead of saying direct, they say insured. And instead of saying indirect, they say uninsured. That's not technically correct, but that's what I see your book doing. But it's not 100% correct, right? So the person that came up with this theory of direct and indirect costs, that's the words he originally used, right? I'll tell you about him just now. And insured and uninsured is slightly different, but in this laboratory course, I'm seeing they saying the same thing. They say direct is insured then, and they say indirect is uninsured. That is actually not always the case, right? So I have here indirect costs can also be insured and uninsured. Um, if you want to know what this is all about, the first thing is that this is not really an exam question, but just the concept of insured and uninsured, the answer for that, like what is that? Like what is insured and uninsured? The answer is just insurance, right? Like insurance will cover certain things then. So like insurance companies, um, you know, Beacon, right? Guardian Life, Alibaba, right? Geico, if you're familiar with the American brands, right? State, Capital, like insurance would only cover certain things. And what they say, insurance mostly covers direct costs, right? And so if you're making notes, you can make some notes. I'll write it on the side for you. Just I'm trying to finish off one slide first, and then I'll start to explain, right? But I started explaining already. But so insurance normally cover direct costs because direct costs is like physical stuff, right? The guy who came up with this, I guess I'll have to start anyway. The guy who came up with this theory, right? He said an accident is like an iceberg, right? So there's a part of it that you see, and he said the cost that you see is said to be the direct cost, right? But he originally said, this was 1932, he originally said direct, right? The cost that you see is the direct cost. But just like an iceberg, the bigger part of the iceberg then, what you may not see at first, but lies below the waves then, right? This is DIRECT, doesn't look like that. Please write it properly, right? So the part that you don't see is said to be the indirect cost. And that's what they said, that the indirect cost is about 36 times what you originally thought it was going to be, right? Now, why did the word insurance kind of replace it over the years anyway, right? Because what I was saying is that insurance normally cover things that you can see, right? Like if there's an accident with a vehicle, it's easy to estimate that because you can see the damage to the bumper, you can see the damage to the fender, right? So insurance normally cover things that are seen. So over the years, most places sort of refer to direct costs as insured costs. But it doesn't always have to be, right? Because what makes costs insured is if you took out insurance for it. Think you understand that? if you took out insurance for it, it would be insured. So like a piece of equipment in a piece of equipment, or not all vehicles that in a company can be insured, right? Of course, insurance is the law. So you're probably gonna have your cars, your vans, the mini trucks, pickup trucks insured. But what about like a loading piece of equipment? What if it was mobile, like a scissors lift, if you know what a scissors lift is, right? Or even a forklift, right? So the forklift could be, I'm just making this up, it's like an older forklift, but it probably do have insurance, but in some way it is a vehicle. And if it was damaged, it's kind of hard to damage a forklift. I remember a forklift is pretty tough, right? But if it was damaged in some way, the cost could be seen. In other words, you could see the damage, but it might not have insurance because it did not take out insurance. So I think you understand that. So not all direct costs is insured. What makes it insured, you understand the concept now, is that you took out insurance for it. Think of your home. Anybody have home insurance? Yeah, I know it's a big thing. It's a big thing in America. It might not be too big in Trinidad and South America. Anybody have insurance on your homes here? Like insurance on your home for flooding? Right, okay, but isn't that something you can see? You can see the damage to like to a house. So the damage to a house, let's just say flooding, right? You could see it, but you won't get any money because you don't have insurance. So that's the point. The point is, to assume all direct costs is insured and all indirect costs is uninsured is not a fair assumption. The fair assumption to say is that something will be insured if you took out the insurance for it, right? So if you look at your book, you see the book saying insured and uninsured, but I don't really like that because that's not really 100% accurate. Not all direct costs is insured. Not all indirect costs is uninsured. But over the years, from 1932 to now, um, people have thought of direct costs as being insured and indirect costs as being uninsured. So what are some of the indirect costs, right? If you look at this, they were saying the guy who came up with this, his name was Heinrich. You don't have to know his name. Heinwich, in case you want to check it out, right? But this theory that this is called the, so have you ever heard about this theory? It's called the iceberg theory. If I want to just move this slide a bit, see if you can see the other picture. Have you ever heard about the iceberg theory before? Anybody? But you're looking at it in case you never hear about it before, but you're looking at it, right? Anybody in the 21 persons you have, and nobody never heard about the iceberg theory?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I
okay,
heard
but
about it before.
yeah, we're looking at it, right? We're looking at it. So it's just a theory saying, and if we relate it back to safety, is like if an accident was to happen, it would be the cost that you can see then, but then it would have like knockdown effects. The knockdown effects is what they're referring to as the uninsured costs. Check your book, you can see it on page 5, or the indirect costs as what it was originally said to be, right? So what are some of those uninsured costs or indirect costs? Some is on this slide, right? I have investigation cost, loss of goodwill and image. You see, no insurance company would insure that. Insurance cover things that are real. When I say real, like physical, like your physical vehicle, right? They wouldn't cover damage to your reputation because how could they quantify that? Hiring and training of replacement staff, insurance doesn't cover that. Check your books out. Let's go to the book. I think everybody have a book here, right? Mostly everybody have a book. Check your books out. Some of the uninsured costs they have is production delays or downtime. No insurance company will cover production delays because they see like you can't quantify like how much money is that, right? So it's difficult to quantify, right? It's difficult to put a money value to it then, so they wouldn't cover things like that, right? Think you're getting it a bit. Next one. Loss of raw materials. I'm reading from your textbook, page 5. We have accident investigation time, and I think I have that one there, right? The time it takes to do the investigation, overtime to make up for lost production, hiring and training of new employees, right? Loss of business reputation. You understand that the knockdown effect then, right, of an accident, right? The loss of reputation. Let's say, let's say there was, God forbid, right, a minor accident involving a vehicle. We can say in Trinidad, that will be like 100, not 100, sorry, my mistake. That'll be 1,000 TT dollars, right? So nothing serious, just a bit of nothing busted. The bumper is not busted. It's not, it's not damaged then, right? It may just need a bit of heating and expanding back, right? Plastic, whatever have you, right? Plastic bumper here, right? That is not really $1,000. I just saying maybe the person that got in the accident, said they're not taking anything less than 1,000 TT, right? Of course, in Guyana, that will be 30,000. Is it 30,000? I think so. 30,000 Guyanese dollars. Yes, it is 30,000 Guyanese dollars, right? That's relatively cheap in Guyana as well, right? Please put this one to be Guyana, right? Otherwise you'll get confused, right? So this one here for my two students in Guyana, right? So nothing really serious. There was no, like I said, permanent damage to the bumper, just something that could just be, heated out and no damage to the paint and stuff, right? So that's the direct cause. That's what you see, right? But in knockdown cost, right? What like what could be the knockdown cause? The knockdown cause could be, well, eventually the person comes back and tells you, well, they don't want that as a solution. They don't want that. They want an entire bumper. They want the whole thing change out, right? So you didn't think about that at first, right? So things like repairs, you're seeing it here. Additional repairs that you didn't think about at first, right? So that's a knockdown cost because you had it in your mind, okay, it's just going to be 1,000 TT, 30,000 Guyanese. But now the person said they want an entire bumper, a whole system back, lights and everything, right? So that's a knockdown cost, right? That's the indirect cost, right? And so we could take another one. Let me take one more, which is what if the person who is involved in it had a bad back? They had a bad back injury from before. Now your little fender bender threw it in the wrong way then, right? So when they spoke to you there on that accident scene, everything seemed okay, right? They did complain of pain a bit, but having gotten it checked out, it turns out that this they had was giving them trouble before, went out of place, resulting in now some sort of spinal injury, at which time this person now decides to do what to you? Anybody can make a guess? What could happen here now?
The person could claim for their back injury,
Right, civil
saying that
claim.
you could
Yeah.
yeah.
Now you didn't really contribute all to it, but remember they're looking to get money then, right? So they can bring you up in court. The court matter is, I'm just making this up, right? The court matter is heard and the person wins. And they win about $500,000 TT dollars. Say multiply that by 30, that's 1 point something, 5 trees is 15, right? About 15 something million Guyanese dollars. And of course, about $500,000 TT dollars. Now you didn't think about that. When this happened, and this is why it's said to be the iceberg theory, because this piece has happened down here. You don't normally think about that. It's like below the waves. You don't see that happening. But that's what the theory suggests. The theory suggests that for every accident, there's a cause that you see, and there's a cause that you don't see. Tell me if you understand that. If you understand that, remember the rest of it is an open book exam. So the exam question at Nibosh, like here, then if you want, do you want to write it down? This is just our second slide, but finish. Right? When I mean it finished, there's nothing else for me to explain to you. When we turn this slide, you just keep seeing the same thing. Like what I did, I wrote some financial direct costs on the slide, and then I put in some indirect costs on the slide. But financial is finished. The concept to remember is for every accident, there is the cost that you could estimate. That's the cost that you see. And then there's those that come back to bite you. What about a fine? What if that was a company vehicle, right? And of course, you know, the regulatory authorities comes and give you a fine. Now, you didn't think about that at first, right? If it is a company vehicle and it was a bit unsafe, the fines in TT is 10,000 TT dollars. The fine in Guyana is 45,000 Guyanese dollars, which is not much. 45,000 Guyanese dollars is about 1,500 TT, right? So the fine in Guyana is not that bad at all. But the point is a fine that you didn't think about. And this one was reputation. Remember, one of them was reputation, the image. So what if this now gets out in the company, that, you know, Kaizen, I'm just making up a name, but you all know Kaizen in Trinidad. Those of us in Guyana would know it, right? But, you say, okay, Kaizen drivers are unsafe drivers, or Bartlett and Hollage drivers are unsafe drivers. They're prone to making accident, right? Guyana, Gisby drivers are unsafe drivers. Well, Guyana is a different story. Speaking of drivers, Guyana is a different story. If you have never experienced Guyana driving, words wouldn't describe it, right? It's not, it's not normal. That's all I can tell you. I've heard people say, I didn't believe it, but it's not normal. But to them, it's normal, right? And they get along, kinda. This week here, somebody was telling me, well, I don't know if it was recent, a student just telling me he came back from Guyana. There was an accident there with about 17, I don't know if it's recent or it could be an old thing, I'm not too sure, but 16 to 17 persons. When I was there in November last year, I saw a police van roll over somebody and kept on going, right? It doesn't happen all the time, but I mean, these are the things I've seen, right? But driving there is totally different to driving in Trinidad or driving in Grenada or Barbados. It's everybody is right. And Kershal is here. When I mean everybody is right, everybody is right. The guy on the motorcycle is right. The guy on the bicycle is also right. Yes, but you wouldn't find that in Trinidad. But the guy on the bicycle would actually rush a car. Yeah, that's a normal thing. The guy on the bicycle. And of course, for those of us in Guyana, like a motorcycle, for those of us in Trinidad, if you don't understand what I'm saying, a motorcycle is like a family vehicle in Guyana. A whole family will fit on one motorcycle. Right, right, Keishal? Yeah? A whole family. This is a normal
2 or
thing.
3 persons, two or
Yeah,
three
it's about a three, is
maximum.
a motorcycle is a three passenger vehicle at least across there. Yeah. Children and thing too, children, primary school children, parents, one stand up in front, two in the back. Yeah, normal, right? So anyway, I saying, I saying that some things you mightn't think about now. So what if your company was a transport company and the reputation gets out that your drivers are a bit unsafe? And of course, the boundary for being a bit unsafe is different to Trinidad and Guyana, right? But whatever you see to be the boundary of safety, right? If you breach that boundary there, and what I'm saying is that that client may take their business elsewhere. So let's say you had a good contract, to provide, vehicles for a company, but because of this simple accident up here, 30,000 Guyanese dollars or 1,000 TT dollars, you end up losing that contract. Now, you didn't think about that. You didn't think about the court case. The thing in court now, the client don't want to have anything to do with you because your company is in court, and the client said, well, they don't want to be associated with this sort of reputation, and they take their business elsewhere, right? So you understand how a simple accident could have a lot of knockdown effects, right? Anyway, if you're okay with that, let me just tell you, out of the two costs, out of the two of them, direct and indirect, Nibosh normally like to ask you the one here, this one here, the indirect cost. So this is the more popular one. And also this is where you have more cost anyway. Right? Does that make some sense? like this could be a 10-mark question to identify 10 indirect costs. So you have some on the slide here. You have some in your book, and I have some more on this slide. If you want, I could turn it and we'll see. I have lots more on this slide. But the thing is, I'm thinking that the case study will give you a hint as to what is the indirect cost then, right? So we have civil claims fines here, but as you read the passage that you will get to do for the exam, they will tell you then, like, the Health and Safety Authority is planning to investigate, a worker is suing the company, a client has taken their business elsewhere, right? So it shouldn't be that strange that the answers are also in the passage, right? So you can get a lot of answers from the passage themselves. Let's take a look at this one. Before I do though, tell me if you understand the concept, but whenever an accident happens, you have two types of costs, direct and indirect. The cost you see, and then the cost that you don't see, right? The cost that you see is more physical, like to the vehicle, to the equipment. The cost that you don't see is things you didn't think about at first, like, you're losing a contract, an employee left your company because of that accident and didn't come back, right? Those kind of things anyway. So look, I have a bunch of them here. The direct cost could include anything that you could see, damage to the building, product, equipment, and vehicle. An employee know who is absent because of the injury, he has 7 days home. So you could see that. You could estimate that 7 days, right? In terms of cost. Claims on employers, if you have insurance covered by the employer's liability insurance, which is like workmen compensation in England. So if you have workers insurance, well, that would be an insured cost. Does that make any sense? Because you have insurance for your workers. In case somebody is injured, they will get compensated or they will get money from what we call in the region here workmen compensation, right? It's a type of insurance, right? So the uninsured costs that you didn't think about could be like fines to OSHA. Even though we don't say OSHA in this course, I'll say OSHA for now, right? Sick pay, any damage to product, equipment, vehicles, or processes that you did not have insurance for, right? So if, like I said, I mentioned the forklift or another type of lifting vehicle that you have, maybe a crane or something. So you have insurance on the van and the truck and the, whatever, and the cars, but you never took out insurance for that lifting equipment. So, you'll have to repair it on your own then because it's not covered by insurance, right? Any compensation not covered by insurance. And of course, because of all of these claims on your insurance company, they are going to increase your insurance premiums, right? So that may be something you didn't think about because of the accident. The next annual year, right? They increase your premiums then because of the accident anyway, right? That may not be something that they thought about at first on the day of the accident, but in a year time it hits you then, right? Indirect insured cost, accumulative business loss is not really, I don't think that's really insurable. Product or process liability claims, recruitment or replacement staff. Further uninsured costs, loss of goodwill and corporate image, production delays, the book had some of these, extra overtime payment, additional administrative times incurred, lower employee morale following the accident, probably causing them to work to rule. The workers are not motivated, so they are just they're just clocking in because of the accident. Could have been, God forbid, a death. So they're traumatized, they're clocking in, they do what they have to do, but they're not really motivated, right? So that may result in stuff not getting done, right? Which may affect your tender, may affect a delivery. So you end up losing money anyway, right? First aid training and the provision of equipment and facilities coming out of an accident, you may have to retrain, purchase or repurchase some equipment that would have been used anyway, right? So in the UK, they have, if you look at page 5, they have what we have, which is called workmen compensation, but across there they call it employers liability compulsory insurance. The main purpose of having insurance for your company is that if an employee is injured and they decide to sue the company, irrespective of the financial position of the employer, there'll be money to pay. Why would there be money to pay? Because the money is coming from where? Where's the money coming from if you have insurance? That's a simple question.
And from the insurance?
From the insurance. If you have insurance, the money is coming from the insurance, which is why, it's if you have insurance, fine, right? And in the UK, employers can be fined £2,500 for not having workmen compensation. Now, I'm not too sure what's the fine in Trinidad and in Guyana, right? For those who understand this, the difference here is that in England, in the UK, well, which is England is part of the UK, it's a law then to have insurance to cover your workers. They call it employer liability insurance. We in Trinidad, we in Guyana, we will call it public liability and workmen compensation, right? But I know a lot of companies don't have it, not even in Trinidad, right? Bigger companies don't have it, smaller companies don't have it, right? So I think you get that a bit. So the moral of that story is that whenever an accident happens, you have two types of costs associated with the accident. The cost that you see, that is called the direct cost, and the cost that you don't see, that's called the indirect cost, right? Make no mistake, there will be both types of costs associated with an accident. Tell me if you're okay with that, because that concept is finished. We could go on to legal now.
So I have a question. Would NIS fall in that category? So let's
NIS is
say
different. Yeah, those of us in
different.
Trinidad, that's national insurance, so you have the same thing in Guyana too. Yeah, but NIS is not NIS is not workman compensation. Just for those of us who have
Okay.
yeah. So it's different. I mean, yes, if you're injured, you get, but NIS is state. National insurance is the government, right? However, workman compensation is not the government. What you're looking at on this slide on page 5 in the textbook, employer liability, or what we call it, workman compensation, is not the government. So if you wonder, well, where you're getting it, where do I go? When I say I, like as a company, if you say Rams contracting, right? Where would Rams contracting go to get employers liability insurance? Where would they go to get that insurance, right? So I'll give you the answer. But first of all, does anybody know the answer? Like, where do you go, Guyana, Trinidad, America? Where do you get this insurance from? Because it's not NIS, it's not what we pay in the government. Anybody have an answer to that? Where do you think you're getting this insurance from? There's a very simple question, by the way. It's really easy.
Is it usually like the private insurance companies?
Yes, it's the same.
Sharia?
Yeah,
One example is Sharia. We have that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the same companies that give you vehicle insurance, they also give workmen compensation too, right? So that's a package. When I say a package, but like when you go to insure your car, third party, fully comprehensive, whatever, the same companies give workmen compensation. So that's where it comes from. I don't know if you want to write that down. Those of us in Trinidad, Guyana, if you wonder, if you have doubts, you have any doubts, like, does my company have workmen compensation? Well, you could ask them Monday. I'm not too sure what the law is in Guyana for having workmen compensation. It is the law here too, but like how many, like who enforces that though? I'm not too sure who enforces that, right? So like I have, my school have, right? But, and I know bigger companies have, Massey have, and a lot of companies have, and it's a good thing to have. It's a good thing to have because remember, the purpose is if somebody decides to sue the company, you have insurance then. If somebody was injured, somebody needed, I mean, and of course, this exists to compensate the person that is injured. The employer doesn't really have to pay anything other than probably the overhead. But once the person is successful, then they get the money from the insurance company, right? So take a note. If you could ask your company on Monday whether or not they have it, and how easy it is to get, because you can literally just walk into any insurance agency, any office, any department. You all have car insurance, those of us with vehicles or vans or trucks insurance, well, mini trucks. And the same places will be offering you workman compensation. They also do insurance on your homes too, right? I know a lot of people overlook that in the region here. Guyana is pretty safe weather-wise. Well, other than flood, right? Other than floods, but going up the islands, Grenada, Barbados, Jamaica, and of course, as you go further up, Antigua, Barbuda. Sorry, for hurricane season, because of course you all know about Barbuda. Barbuda was wiped out some years ago, about 2 years ago. Horrible, horrible. Category 5. You know, that stayed over the island for about 12 hours, right? It's like being in a tornado, but not for 10, 15 minutes, for 24 hours, right? Anyway, the point is, as you go up the island, I've also been in Grenada. I know you all know that. I've said that here. We have students in different parts. I've had Montserrat and St. Kitts as well. And so, like Grenada, definitely that's not something that they play around with. Like Grenada doesn't get it too bad, but they do get it, right? So a lot of companies, a lot of people, so other than companies are saying homes, a lot of people, Trinidadians too, of course, we have a saying in Trinidad. What's a saying in Trinidad? God is a what?
Attorney.
Right. But the folks in Grenada say the same thing. It's very interesting when you travel up the islands though. Like I remember being in Grenada. And I remember growing up. This was some years ago. This was before the pandemic. So I was kind of a bit more naive now, right? But I remember being in Grenada. And I remember they said the hummingbird is only found in Trinidad, but I was seeing the hummingbird in Grenada. Then I heard they said the leatherback turtle only comes in Trinidad, but when I was in Grenada, the leatherback turtle was in Grenada too. What about those of us in Florida? The hummingbird is in Florida. I don't know if you know that. The hummingbird is in Florida, right? Anyway, the point of this story is to tell you that everybody kind of say the same thing. So don't always think that God is a Trini, but I know Trinidadians don't take out home insurance because we don't tend to get the blunt of all of the storms and hurricanes. But I'm telling you, what about Montserrat? What about if you have family up there? A lot of people, homeowners, then they don't make joke with insurance then, right? They will get insurance at their homes. I do think Guyana and Trinidad is not in the hurricane belt per se. And we do get flooding every year and probably a minor storm per se. But I mean, I wouldn't even say storm, it's like a tropical depression, right? But we are kind of safe in that sense anyway. But it's always good to know that, folks. What I just tell you that the same place you get your car insurance from, you can get home insurance, you can get workman compensation, but not you. Your employer will get workman compensation there. So nobody has an excuse to say, no company has an excuse to say that they don't have insurance to cover their workers anyway, right? Folks, this is long done. I just kind of over talking it. Let's go to legal. So for legal, I would need to do some writing on this slide. But I could direct it to the page for now. So for legal, so those of us in the book, if you turn the page, you'll realize like financial is finished. Did you all see that? So after the financial reasons, they spoke about insured, uninsured. And then you turn the page, you see it finished. So the next page you're on is page 7. Tell me where's the heading on page 7?
The force of law.
Right, so that's what I tell you, it's law, right? There were 3 reasons to manage health and safety. Moral means the right thing to do. Financial means you want to prevent those direct and indirect costs. You could probably live with the direct costs because it's not that bad. But then what if these things kind of happen to your company now, right? Production delays, the loss of goodwill, those things have a kind of knockdown effect, right? So you want to prevent the accidents to prevent the direct and the indirect costs, right? So we go into law. The thing with the law do, here what I want to do, right? I'm looking at the time, it's 1:45. So law is more than one class, right? But what I want to do today, I want to focus on like the meat of the law then, right? There's a lot of stuff around the law, like how is a law made? That's not really going to come for your exam, right? So I want to focus on the main part of the law in today's class. So because of that, I'll be asking you to turn your pages to some pages, and you'll see why I did it, because those are the pages with the main part of the law in it, right? Next week, we'll come back and talk about the things then that are superficial. Superficial meaning that those things don't really come for exam, right? But I want to kind of keep our mind today focused on the main parts of the law, right? So if you have your book page 7, and I'll be writing some things on the slide, if you want, you could write as well. Now, the purpose in writing is emphasis, right? I'm writing some things on the slide here to tell you that it's very important, and not important really to me, but important for the exam. That's the only reason for writing, right? Because you have the book and you have the slides. I have no need to write, but I'm writing it to tell you how important it is. So the first thing that's very important is, and my marker just disappeared, right? The first thing that's very important is that if you're on page 7, they mention a law there, but you're going to see 2 of the laws in bold. And very important is that you know that law. Now, it's an open book exam, so you don't have to really learn it by heart, but you have to know the importance of it, right? So just put the acronym here. The main law for health and safety in the UK is the Health and Safety at Work Act. We call it the HSW Act 1974, right? The Health and Safety at Work, etc. Act. HSWA is an accepted acronym, so that's okay to put that, HSWA, right? I tend to write the word act though, right? The HSW Act 1974. And this is the main law for health and safety in the world. I'll explain that to you just now. But for now, just take it to be what I tell it to be. It's the main law for health and safety in the world, right? So see if you see it in the book, you could, I have it on the slide. If I get my chance, I'll move this. I'm going to move this slide till I reach it. And we could continue, right? I'm going to show the line of this slide a bit. The thing with Zoom is that you take out your marker before you move the slide and then put back your marker. So if you come back to this slide here, you'll see it up here, right? The acronym, the Health and Safety at Work Act. This used to be our old way of saying it. People would actually put in the A in it, Health and Safety at Work Act. And they used to call it HASAWA. But that's like a 10-year-old. That's like back in my days then, right? So that's more than 15 years now. People don't say HASAWA anymore. I mean, I don't say it too. I say HSW, right? But if you put the A in it, then you make up this nice way of remembering, right? Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, right? So again, we said just to kind of get back into it, in this whole course then, Trinidad and Guyana, we were all under the British. Both countries represented here are now a republic. I don't have any Grenadians in this class as yet, right? Well, I would have some probably in about a next sitting, right? I'm due to go across there as well, right? But Grenada is not a republic. St. Lucia is not a republic. They are independent. Does it want to put the FM already? It's out already in a folder. Just give me a minute, huh? Yeah. Yeah, right. So yeah, Grenada, St. Lucia, they are not a republic. they don't have their own president then, right? We all know who the president of Guyana is, but we don't know who the president of Trinidad is, right? Of course, that is actually true. Yes, for Keishel, that is actually true, right? That's actually true, right? And that's because the person, like, I mean, it talks about the visibility of the person. And like, I mean, that's a true statement. Mr. Ali in Guyana there is very visible, but most Trinidadians don't even know who our president is, right? Anybody in the class know who the president is in this class? If you don't know it, don't embarrass yourself, man, because look, I have people in Guyana here.
the
Yeah.
president of Trinidad you're talking about?
Michelle, you are a teacher, so I would ask somebody else. Sorry. Michelle is a teacher, so let's say somebody else who's not a teacher. The average citizen in the street, anybody know who the president of Trinidad is? No. Say it.
No, Miss Kangaroo.
Okay, very good. So some of y'all know, some of y'all know. Some of y'all know. Okay. But like when I made the comment, I more made the comment in terms of visibility now, right? Mr. Ali is in Guyana. He is, if there's a dispute in the market, Scarborough market, he is there, right? He is a kind of hands-on person. He would have taken on the BBC. I don't know if you all ever saw that thing on YouTube. Of course, taken on Venezuela as well, right? And showing a measure of strength then that some of the other leaders in the region would, of course, commended, right? Anyway, let me go back to the point. The point I'm trying to tell you is that we are a republic, right? We are independent Trinidad, Guyana. We are independent. However, made a statement, right? I made a statement which was the HSW Act is the main law for health and safety in the world. So what does that mean? If we are independent and a republic, what does that have to do with us? And the answer is this, right? If you want to write it down, this is just for your explanation. But folks, it is also for you to understand something in this course, right? Here what? I wouldn't write it. I would just say it. Because I could write it tonight. The thing is, when I write it, some people just get, like if you don't listen to the whole lesson and you just watch the pit here, you would say, wait now. You may get misled then, right? But the thing is, the HSW Act, right? In Trinidad, it is petit for Trinidad, right? The HSW Act in Trinidad is the USH Act of Trinidad and Tobago. And the HSW Act in Guyana is the USH Act of Guyana. I can say that one more time for you all. So, having been under British rule, right? Trinidad is part of the Commonwealth. Guyana is part of the Commonwealth as well. But for now, anyway, no one in Guyana needs a visa to go to England. But America needs to get a visa to go to England. Yes, an American citizen need a visa to go to England. You here in Trinidad and Tobago, and you in Guyana, you could go and buy a ticket today. Could stay home and buy it, in fact. And it could be in England Tuesday morning. I think the flight leaves, it could be leaving Sunday, but if it leaves Sunday, by Monday, you're back in England. No visa required, just your passport. You all know that? Right. So why? Because we are part of the British Commonwealth. So what I'm trying to tell is that we have been influenced then, right? We have been influenced. Queen's Royal College, Trinidad. Maybe the folks in Guyana could help me with this as well, right? Those of us in Trinidad, some of the streets name, Prince of Wales Street. Prince of Wales. Wales is not the whale in the sea they're talking about. Wales is part of the United Kingdom, right? Prince of Wales Street. Prince's Tongue. Prince's Tongue. Which prince? They were not Princess, people, they say Prince's Tongue. It's not Prince's Tongue. It's princes. It's like more than one prince. S at the end. Prince's Tongue. Right? So we have been influenced by the British. And what I'm trying to tell you, that influence didn't stop in the naming of the island or in terms of Guyana, in terms of that country. The influence didn't stop there. But when we left Trinidad and we became independent in Guyana as well, and we had our USH, you think so what is I trying to tell you? What I'm trying to tell you is that we didn't invent the USH. Both countries here, we did not invent it. We just took what they have. Read these for me, right? This is the duty under the HSW Act. Provide a safe place of work, including safe access and egress. Provide safe plant and equipment. Provide safe systems of work. Provide safe and competent fellow employees. Provide adequate levels of information, instruction, training, and supervision. Provide adequate welfare facilities and arrangements. Is that the same thing in Trinidad? Does that sound like does this sound like our OSHA? Yes or no? For those of us who may be a bit familiar with it. Do you think this is a duty in Trinidad to provide safe place of work? Do you think that's a duty in Guyana to provide safe place of work in your OSHA? That's a yes or no question. What do you think? Yes or no? Do you think that's a duty?
Yes, it's a duty.
So-
I glanced at our OSH Act and it's pretty much the same.
It is the same because
Mhm.
it was good, right? Guyana is 1997. Yeah, Guyana had our OSHA. Guyana had their OSHA before Trinidad. Strange, eh? And Trinidad was in the oil and gas industry. Guyana OSHA is 1997, headed up by the Minister of Labor. And Trinidad and Tobago OSHA is 2004. Strange, eh? Trinidad in the oil and gas field, but Guyana had an OSHA before Trinidad and Tobago. Strange, 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 right? But it is the same thing. You see, there was no need when you change head then. We changed the queen. What was the queen? Passed away. So you change the queen for a president. But the law was still good, right? So all they did, they kind of ratified it in the local parliaments. So Guyana OSH Act is the HSW Act. Trinidad OSH Act is the HSW Act. What do you think for America? I'll say it again. America OSH Act is the HSW. Yes, was America ruled by the British? Yes. Right? Grenada OSH Act. Grenada is 2015. Is it the HSW Act? Yes, it's also the HSW Act. What about Canada? Yes, it's also the HSW Act. Where about Jamaica? Yes, it's also the HSW Act, right? You see, if a wheel was invented, like I said, there's no need to make a wheel another way. A wheel could only be one way, right? If the duty was provide safe access and egress in England, is a duty in Trinidad, is a duty in Grenada, is a duty in America, is a duty in Guyana. The statement is a good statement. The employer is to provide safe access and egress. You think you understand that, folks? Right. So listen to this other statement I'm going to make. Now, why I didn't write the OSHA here is that for this course, you could only refer to the HSW Act. I want you to take a note of that, please. Somebody is not going to do it though. Somebody in every class, somebody, and that's why I didn't write it. That's why I didn't write the word, or sorry, the letters OSH. Because I tell you, if somebody look at this PowerPoint and you only see OSH, you will think it's OSH. That's why I didn't write it. I left it as the HSW Act on the slide. So for this course, if they ask you what are the breaches of the legislation, now they would normally say HSW Act, but if they don't, you have to use the ones on the slide or in the textbook. And this is what I tell you, I wanted you to turn the pages. You're going to do that now. And I wanted to see this in your textbook. It is an open book exam, so there's no need to memorize it. However, you want to turn to that page in the meantime? So because we're not doing the next week, we'll come back and take back right there. We'll come back right on that page. But because we're doing the part more relevant to exam, we want to kind of go forward to see the part of the book that have the laws with it, right? If you want, you could find some on page 20. You'll start seeing they mention it on page 20, but I'm not even going to do that because you see, this is not history. What they will ask is what sections of the act is broken. So that's why I wanted to go to the sections, right? There is a class I have that talks about the history of the act and how an act is made, and that's just kind of wasting good class time. But if we line it up to exam, then that's what I mean, right? It's on the syllabus, so nothing is wrong with that. But in terms of an exam question, tell me if you found your page 20 and then look at page 21, you'll start seeing it have different sections of the act, like section 2. This should be page 21 for you. You should be able to make out section 2. And that's what you're seeing here, section 2. See if you're lining up with this slide now. Now, section 2 is actually the most tested section of the whole law for exam. And it should be, because that's the good section. That's the one that's saying what the employer have to do. Think you understand that? In other words, there are some sections that you'll never get a test on. And there are some sections that we have no past papers on. But section 2, yes. Because somebody tell me when you find your on page 21, I wanted to turn it as well. But let me know when you're on page 21, so you start seeing the name of the law. So you start knowing that I'm
Yes,
not
sir, I'm
making this
there.
up. Okay, very good, very good. Check out page 21, you're going to see section 2.1. And the heading there is the duty of the employer. Therefore, if you look here, you're going to see the common employer, common law duty of care. Statutory duty and statutory duty, but it's on the employer. Employer statutory duty. Turn the page, and this is called the magical page because this is the one that is mostly examined. I think it's page 22 in your textbook. See if you're seeing those same kind of things. You see it under topic focus. This is the most tested page for the law. Right? Now, I have it on my PowerPoint as well. Right? However, I have it as a summary to the end. So I don't know if you want me to go down to show you or just
Can you go down for the persons who don't have the textbook?
Yeah, we don't have a book. Yes, okay, yeah, okay. So when I say go down, you have to go all the way down, right? Trinidad is good at creating the limbo dance. So we didn't create the act, but we created the limbo. If you know, the limbo dance is created in Trinidad, right? However, it was a Guyanese. I don't know if you all know that it was a Guyanese that wrote our national anthem. Those of us in Trinidad know that? A Guyanese wrote Trinidad and Tobago national anthem. But it's not as if we didn't do anything. We created a limbo and steel pan, of course. Of course, some places will contest that. Grenada will say they created steel band too, and Calypso too. Right? You'll have to travel and you'd see. All right, so what slide is it? In the handout, it is slide 73. So if you have the thing emailed to you from slide 73, I have the same thing in the book. Those of us who had the book, this is the same thing in the book. You have the different sections of the act. Right? So let's take it from here. The most important legal duties for employers and workers. So the Health and Safety at Work, etc. Act 1974 have some different sections. Section 2.1 of the HSW Act states it's the general duty of the employer to employees, and the general duties is that they are to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of employees so far as is reasonably practicable. Is this like an overarching statement? Yes, section 2.1 is like an overarching statement. So it really gets good. We are told it got good then, which is section 2.2, right? So section 2.2, again, if you don't have the book, I can just hold this over the screen. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's the same thing. You call it the same thing. You see that it's section 2.2, nothing different, nothing more, nothing less. And they go into the different, same thing on this slide. 2.2a, 2.2b, 2.2c. The same thing on this slide is the same thing you're watching. Those of us who taught the book, right? So the following duties are specific duties under section 2 of the HSW Act. And those of us in Trinidad is actually part 2. Those of us in Guyana is actually part 2 as well of the OSHAC. Grenada, same thing. Because we all took it from the British, right? Which was okay because at least the law was okay. The law was good, right? So let's see what section 2.2a says. It says the provision and maintenance of plant. The plant here is like the facility you're on, and safe and systems of work, right? Some people say safe systems of work. If you're not sure what a system of work is, you could take a little note one time. A system of work is like a permit to work. That's a system of work. So the employer is to provide a safe plant for their workers, safe facility, plant is facility. And they are to provide like, a permit is like a job instruction, safe systems of work, a way to get the work done. A permit could be one way Anybody know of another way? Does anybody work in safety here? There's something called a JSE. But once there's a system for doing work, but that's section 22A, right? Section 22B, the employer to provide safe handling, storage, and transport of articles and substances. 22C, the employer to provide information to employees, training free of charge, instruction, and supervision. Just give me 1 minute, huh? Right, okay, thanks for the minute, right? Yeah, okay, let's go again. 22D, the employer to provide the maintenance of safe place of work with adequate access and egress. 22E, adequate facilities and welfare arrangements so far as is reasonably practicable, right? So if you want, as a class I'm talking to, right, if you want, watching, I mean, we have time, right? Remember, I wanted us to look at a question. I could have reflected on how this comes for exam then, instead of just, so remember it's not a memory-based exam. So they're not going to ask you to remember this. So if you have the book, you have the slides, they're not going to ask you to remember it. They're not going to ask you to remember. So the question is, how does it come? Right? So if you want, we could reflect on that a bit. So is that okay? We can remember the best class you have or the worst class you have in this course do make a difference. Huh? In this course, it have an exam and going to England. So we have to always, if something is relevant, we have to reflect on it for exam. So what happens is this, right? I could take off something from here. I'm taking off the little diagram, right? I'm leaving the arc on top there, though. Sorry about that there. Right, so listen to what they do, right? For the exam. And we're going to look at a question, but the thing is, remember, we covered two things today, so I don't know which one to look at. When we look at financial or legal, we could only look at one. We can't look at two in the 20 minutes we have, right? Well, 25 minutes we have. Plus, I have a passy pass. I'm not even sure what questions are on the paper, right? I haven't, like, I don't like to plan it that well then. I like to surprise myself sometimes because it makes it interesting for me as well, right? That I don't do the same thing in all the classes. So we'll look at a pass paper just now and see what it have. Whatever question we can do, we will do it. But I could probably come back to this one next week. Remember, next week is still is law. Remember, I said law is more than one class. So we could come back to a full question. If we do one in the 20 minutes coming up just now and we do another one next week, fine. That's two questions done, right? Anyway. All right, so I was going to tell you, so what happens is that I'll just tell you, hey, what, I'll make this short because I will probably go into the paper. So what they do, right? They will describe for you in the case study like a scenario of an accident then. And then what they do, they will ask you, like, what are the breaches of the employer, right? So remember, it's an open book exam. If when you read the case study, it said that the new employee was not, or the new employee, I'm not really making this up, but this is one from our past paper, right? The new employee was given a 5-minute induction, right? They were quickly shown the master points and they were then hurried along to their workstation. And the question is for 10 marks. Well, I'll talk about that just now, right? But for now, like what duties were broken there? If they say the employee was given a 5-minute induction, so what NIBOSH is going to ask you to do is to pick the section by name and number. Was it 22A? Was it 22B? Was it 22C, 22D, 22E? They wanted to pick this section and say why you thought it was a breach. So could I ask you all, you mightn't just say, but which one looks as if it's broken? If they say the person was given a 5-minute induction, which section look as if it was broken?
2 to C.
2 to C, very good, right? So
Two
then
to
you
C.
say, yeah. So then you say, in my opinion, I believe the supervisor broke the HSW Act. This is what you type in, right? In that they did not provide proper instruction or training for the young apprentice. Full stop. Then you go in the passage and you have to pull out that line. You have to take out the line. You have to say, this is a scene where the induction was done for 3 to 5 minutes and the employee was hurried along to their workstation. Think you understand it, folks? You understand how to use the information? Let me know, let me know. NIBOSH is not about memory anymore. It's about interpretation. So if you learn this, great. If you don't learn it, still great, because you could open your book, you could open the slide, it's there for you. You could often look back at it. The exam is not that hard. Some people say it is. I don't think it is, right? Because how come people getting 70 and stuff like that all the time? How come classes getting 94% pass rate with one person failing? Well, and of course, that person may not be, I think I told you that people have genuine issues that they go through, sickness and whatever have you, right? So how could people get 94% say that the exam had? It can't be, right? It can't be, right? Could I do one more again? And before I go to the, well, a pass it, right? I try to make up one, right? So suppose they say, there was clutter throughout the workshop corridor. The fire extinguisher was seen in the ground and the emergency exit was blocked. And for 10 marks, remember we just do one, but you have to get 10 breaches. What breaches that day off then? Which section is being broken there? Make a guess. It's 20 something. Are you all here, right?
Is it 2 to A, sir?
2 to A. Okay.
2 to
Anybody else?
2 to E.
2 to E.
Section 2 to D.
2 to D. Right? Yeah. Now I think it could be A as well. But you have to explain it, right? I think, and as I could see, like they didn't provide a safe plant if they say they place a clutter. So I can see 2 to A, but I would probably more lean to 2 to D in terms of safe access and egress for that one.
Egress.
And
Yeah.
let me just tell you one more magic again, one more magic. So you see how to do an EBOSH exam, people. You see what? Look, I had Derek on my screen, and I saw Derek looking at his book. Well, to change my view, I have to change my view, right? I have to turn it. So I was seeing Derek with his book. Some of you all your cameras off, so I can't see what you're doing, sleeping awake and Glenn Steeland. He's right here. So, but I was seeing Derek now. I was seeing looking at the book, and that's what you have to do. Nobody should fail an open book exam. The only reason you fail an open book exam is that you didn't open the book. And the other thing here, folks, remember you could use Google. You could have Googled the HSW Act, right? What are the employer's duty in the HSW Act? And press search and Google will bring it up for you, right? So NIBOSH exam is like compare apples for apples. Yeah, not apples and oranges, apples for apples, right? You have like the knowledge, but then you're applying it to a case study, right? There are no memory-based questions anymore. Well, unless they change it back. But since the pandemic, since you're at home, remember you're doing this exam home for 24 hours. So they're not already, well, it already be 24 hours. You could finish in 8 hours time, right? But you have that time frame to do it now. So it don't really be like the book is the answer. In a way, the answer is the book and the slide, but in a way it's not. Because if you don't tie it in, you don't get the mark. Right? You must tie it into the case study. So let's have a look at one. Like I said, there are more than one question here. When I mean more than one question, having done what we did, this is just our third class. Let me see what I have lined up here. There's more than one participants we could do, but I guess we can't do all at the same time. We could do one at a time. February 2024. This is one I had from the morning class, right? I had a class this morning. Tell me if you can see it. You can let me know if you can see it. And I'm going to discuss it with you. I'll try to bring this a bit bigger for you all. Can you all see the passive? But yeah, it should be saying financial impact of accidents. Can you all see that? Not yet?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, good, right? So
Yes,
look at that, right? Look at this, right? Look at this question. So the first question on the paper. Last week, I think we saw one. The first question was moral. Now, I told you, not everything is important, and not every class. If every class had an exam paper question, but then you'll have a lot of questions to do. But it's not a lot of questions. It's like 7 or 8 questions you have to do. Watch it. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 questions. So not everything come in, but it has some things they like to bring now, right? And so moral, legal, financial is one of them. Let's have a read of it. Now, this is actually a technique. I don't know if you understand what I'm doing, right? It's not by chance. I'm actually reading the question first. So this is a technique. So they want to write that down. Reading the question first is actually a technique. I mean, you could write it down. I know it's your third class, but and you're far from exam, but yeah, you don't read the case study first. You see, reading the case study is like somebody tell you go and look, for a needle in a haystack, but you don't know what the needle looks like. Or they didn't tell you what you're looking for in the first place. So you're just looking in the haystack. But what you're looking for? But if they tell you what's a needle you're looking for, you'll be looking for the needle, right? So there's a need to read the case study first. Sorry, not the case study. There's a need to read the question first. So you know what you're looking for. When you go up in the passage there, you know what you're looking for, right? Let's have a read of it. So financial impact of accidents. So I'll base today's class on financial. Next week, I would pre-plan that one because I wouldn't want to be caught off guard. Let me see if it have another one. Some sentences have 2 questions on chapter 1. So this is financial. Policies, chapter 2. Managing risk hunting is chapter 3. Culture is chapter 3. Contractor management, chapter 3. Individual factors, chapter 4. Question task 8 is chapter 3 as well, right? So this exam paper had 1 question on chapter 1. Did you all notice anything strange? I mean, other than that, that's right, I know it's time to write. But did you all notice that they didn't have any law question? You all notice that? Watch it. Financial. No, so every paper is different. Remember, I said, I know you forget, because I remember telling you all there are 3 reasons for managing health and safety. One of them come in. We don't know which one, but one of them does come. Some people lucky, they just get 2. You get a question on moral and financial, or you get a question on financial and the law, but one of them come in. Which one, we don't know. And it's not as if you had to memorize the law anyway. So you can't say, look, I studied the law and the law didn't come. If you're studying for this course, you're doing the wrong thing, because this course is more interpretative than studying, right? So the question is here, the accident with the robotic arm and the bench-mounted machinery will have caused organizational financial impacts. Outline the possible financial impact. We see 15 marks. You should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario, right? Now, how I will do this, I'm going to do another technique. I hope you'll write it down. Technique 1, read the question first. Write it down. From now till your last class, I'm just trying to reflect on it a bit. Technique 1, read the question first. Technique 2, look at how much marks the question is worth. The question is worth 15 marks. So you have to come up with 15 answers for this, not 5, not 3, not 10, not 11, not 12. 15 answers you have to come up with this, right? So you now could open your book when you decide you're going to do the question and come back to financial, which is back to page, 1 Back to page 5, right? Back to page 4. And you could just take some costs from there. Page 4 had first aid treatment, worker sick pay. In other words, then, could I ask a question? Did this question limit you to direct or indirect? No, it just said financial. So you could pick from direct and indirect and make up your 15. You could open my slides, you could use my slides. Please remember, you have to tie it back into the question, right? So let me give you a typical answer. We'll try to find, I have one more technique to tell you, right? I have one more technique. So technique 1, from now till your last day of class, read the question first. Technique 2, look at the exam mark. How much mark you see is how much points you have to write. And the third technique is to come up with an answer plan. Now, that's the purpose in the book, and that's the purpose in the PowerPoints. You come up, and that's the purpose in Google. So you come up with an answer plan. I would just try about 2 for now, right? So I would just say, okay, like, I would just pick 2 from the book, right? So I would say, like, a financial impact I would talk about is, let me just pick one. Just as a robotic arm, right? So it looked like somebody was injured in this thing here. So I would take something like accident investigation time, right? So I write down on a scrap piece of paper, accident investigation time. But I leave out the word time, right? So this is called an answer plan. On this sheet of paper, I would have 15 answers before I start typing. I can tell you all the reasons why to do this, but time wouldn't permit me. So just do what I tell you to do, right? Create an answer plan. You see, if you don't create an answer plan, the whole world of wrong does happen to you, right? The whole world of wrong does happen to you. So I'll take another answer. Somebody call another answer for me. Shout another. Which you think could be another financial impact? The book have it. You can just pick one. Anyone will do for me, but just call one.
Cost to repair damage to the
Okay,
machinery.
cost of repair. Okay, good, right? Cost of repair. Very good. Right? So that'd be my number 2 answer. But before I start a question, my answer plan would have 15 answers in it. No, I'm not typing it out as yet. And I'm not writing it in full sentences as it. I just put in accident investigation, cost of repair, scrappy as it is, because when I go to write, this is what I write in now, right? What you're writing now, you're composing a line. Folks, you're getting it. You're saying what you're saying. You're saying the financial impact of the accident with the robotic arm and the bench mounted machinery is, and you take one of these from here or from your book. I'll say it again. You're composing a line. You're saying the financial impact of the accident with the robotic arm and the bench mounted machinery is, and I'm doing that 15 times. Another technique I tell my students is you copy it and you paste it 15 times because it's the same statement you're using for all the answers. If you type it once, you type it 15 times one time. Copy it and paste it in there. Put a down arrow here. Right? But the line you're saying is that the financial impact with the accident, the financial impact of the accident with the robotic arm and the bench mounted machinery is accident investigation. And now, guess what I do now? What's the next thing to do? But that's the answer. What's the next thing to do? You have to go and get what now?
You go to the question and pull out your support and
You go to the case study and you pull out the line, right? The
Case
next
study,
answer will be the same thing. The next answer I write in the same thing. Remember, I don't copy and paste the line, right? The next answer I write in the financial impact of the accident with the robotic arm and the bench mounted machinery is, and I just change in the answer, cost of repair. Folks, you understanding? Yes, if you follow my technique, you'll never be there whole night and day like what some students do. Now, the students who listen to me, some students say they finish this exam by 2:30, right? Some students say, they finish by 4:00, right? But those who don't do what I tell them to do will be there whole night. Those who don't catch the technique. Passing an open book exam is not about studying. Passing an open book exam is about technique, right? If you had to study, well, it wouldn't be an open book exam, right? It is about technique and not studying. How far are they coming from? Another day, yeah. I don't want to say that in for you. Yeah. All right, so let's go now. I kind of, you see, all the techniques gonna take some time, but I hope you're writing it down, right? Hope you're writing it down because it will ever change. Monday, yeah, yeah. Right, okay, so we're going up here, and what I will do based on the time, I would use a technique also called fishing. Fishing is, I don't have to read all of this. You see, we want to get the financial impact of the accident. And the case study have a heading, watch it here, the organization, the machine shop. So we could zone on to where the accident happened. See it? They call this technique fishing. Yes. If you decide to start up here, you're just wasting a lot of time. But I'll read the first passage for you so that we know what we're talking about. But they could zone down to what they're talking about. They're talking about the financial impact of the accident. Folks, you understand the technique? If you don't, well, when you start doing passive, as you realize, start up here, you'll know that, wait now, this just not making this, we did not answer any question. The question is, what is the financial impact of the accident? Now, there may be another question that talk about management, and then they could come and focus on what's happening in the workshop here. Or there may be something that asks about the workshop and you focus on that, right? Anyway, I'll read the first passage for you because we need to know what we're doing, right? So, the organization, a small car manufacturing organization site, is comprised of several buildings, including a factory containing a production line. But that doesn't sound small to me. If you're assembling cars, that's not a small operation. Anyway, containing a production line, a machinery workshop where metal tools are machined, and an administrative office. There are 150 workers, including 3 health and safety supervisors. I suppose one of them is you, a workshop manager, and a site manager. Anyway, I guess in the UK they call this small, but down here we'll call this big. This is a big operation. They're making cars here, right? Anyway, let's see. Robotic arms have recently been installed in the painting section of the production line. These robots apply paint, coatings, and sealants to the car bodies. These tasks were previously done manually. The new robotic arms have a wider area of movement than the robotic arms already used in other sections of the production line. Warning signs indicating the dangers of this wider movement have been placed on the new arms. Workers in the area have been provided with hearing protection. Didn't really say body protection. Anyway, let's go to see about the accident because remember, we want to get an answer before 2:30, right? Plus, we could focus on the accident, right? But on the day of the exam, you'd read the whole thing, but you have to zone down on the question then. In other words, look to the part of the haystack that you think the needle is at then, right? So the accident, 3 days into the construction work, new workers see a construction contractor using their mobile phone to video the new robotic arms. The worker shouts out a warning, but there is no reaction. The worker runs over to the construction contractor, but slips on the floor and falls into the part of the robotic arm that hits the worker. The worker is knocked onto the floor, and the construction contractor steps back in panic. Remember what we're looking for, eh? We're looking for goal. We're looking for the financial cost, right? That's why the answer plan is important. We're looking for a line that will support our answers, right? When you start playing the haystack, then you just get confused with the hay sometimes. But if you keep in mind what you're looking for the financial impact of the accidents, you'll be able to find it, right? So you see how the technique of paper, I tell students buy paper all the time, buy some file pages and use them Don't ever do an exam without this, right? It's like somebody playing cricket by you had a poor technique, a bad technique, right? All right, let's go again. But we're looking for financial impact. We're not looking for who panicking. We're not looking for that. So ignore that. The production line supervisor happens to be returning from their lunch break and witness the worker being hit by the robotic arm. We're not looking for that either. The supervisor quickly locates and presses the robotic arm's emergency stop button before calling a first aider. Let's go down again. 5 minutes later, you were informed of the accident and quickly walked towards the factory. Before entering, you notice a sign has fallen on the floor, writing side down. It was previously attached to the door, just below where production line is painted. You pick it up, revealing the words authorized workers only, and try to reattach it onto the door. Unfortunately, it is raining and it is too wet to reattach it. So you place it on the ground, leaning against the door. You then continue inside and find a trail of water drops on the floor leading to the scene of the. Now, this could be causes of the accident because that was another question, right? We are thinking about what's the consequences of the accident. The injured worker is sitting on the floor while being treated by the first aider. The worker's supervisor is standing to the side, and the construction contractor is also standing nearby with water dripping from their high visibility coat. You recognize the injured worker as one of the 17-year-old apprentices recently hired under the new apprenticeship scheme. With the robotic arm not currently working, you can hear the apprentice being told by the first aider that they could possibly have broken bones. You're seeing, yes. Did you start seeing the needles yet? What was the second answer I have here? But one of you called that. What was the second answer I have here?
Cost of repair.
Okay, did you see the needle? Let's say see the needle. Like, did you see the line that you're going to use? Watch it, huh? You recognize the injured worker as one of the 17-year-old apprentice recently hired under the new apprenticeship scheme. What was this line? With the robotic arm? What? The robotic arm what?
Not currently working.
Not currently working. Very good, Aidan, right? So you could use that. Now, once you find it, take it because it's 15 you have to get and it's 8 questions you have to do, right? So remember the line. Now remember this guy have broken bones too, so it's most likely, we could use, look how much answers it have in the book. Look what your book? Sick pay. What about look first aid? First aid was the first answer. You see book page 4? First aid treatment was the first answer. We passed first aid as an answer already. Look it up here. The injured worker is sitting on the floor while being treated by the first aider. So you could write out 3. First aid. Once you see the goal, then don't leave the goal. When you're looking in a haystack and you find a piece of gold, don't leave it, right? We look at the book and you see first aid was a financial cost and they mentioned first aid, then don't ignore it. It's 15 you have to get. Once you get it, take it, right? Let me see if they mention anything here about investigation, but we could imply that the fact that the worker has broken bones, it most likely means that they're going to investigate. However, the passage stop right there, right? So you have to imply now. That's one of the things with NEBOSH. If you wonder, well, what's so hard? I mean, if all the answers in the book, what's so hard? What's so hard is getting those magic lines or magical lines then to line up, right? So we could have, let me just call the whole statement for you now. So one of my answers would be the financial impact of the accident with the robotic arm and the bench-mounted machinery is cost of repairs. Full stop. My next sentence would be, this is seen in the case study where it was mentioned, and you come back and you quote the line from here. You could quote the whole line. Don't be afraid. Some people just be afraid to quote the line. Don't be afraid, right? So this is seen in the case study where, and you quote the whole line where it was said, I think I lost the line myself, but you all know it when you're doing it, you'll print your paper out and you'll have it, right? I think look at here with the robotic arm not currently working, right? And then you can say this is representative that the machine will need some repair, and the cost of this additional repair is an uninsured financial cost. Full stop. And you finish that line. Remember, I'm teaching since 8:30, right? So let me just get a sip of water here. Tell me what you think. This is a perfect answer. The only stress is the haystack. Your book is there to help you. The notes are there to help you. Google is there to help you. Your friend is there to help you. Once your friend not in this class. Yeah, friends can help you, but once they're not in this class, right? However, the trick is the haystack. The trick is the passage. Go into that passage to find those lines. When the passages, remember I told you all when you started orientation, the NEBOSH case study is not 10 pages long. It's only 2, but this one probably 2 and a little bit, 2 or 3, right? 2 to 3 pages long, right? That's not a lot when you think about it to get all those answers from, right? So you're gonna have to keep searching then, keep trying to excavate that goal then, right? And you have to tie the line because they don't give the mark, right? They don't give the mark if you have the answer alone. You must have the answer, cost of repairs, cost of first aider. Well, we could use that one. We could use that one. We can say the financial impact of the accident with the robotic arm and the bench mounted machinery is the cost of first aid treatment. This is seen in the case study where it was mentioned, and you pull the line with the first aider here. Right? This is the injured worker is sitting on the floor, and while being treated by the first aider, you can say whatever first aid material was used would have to be replenished. Therefore, it is a financial cost to the company. That's it. Full stop. 2 to 3 lines. 2 to 3 lines. 4 if you're lucky. That's a wrap, folks, right? Tell me what you think. I am thinking about though. You think you're confident to tackle something like this by yourself? I hear nobody answer. Right? nobody answers nothing.
We can,
I would want to try it.
yeah.
I think I could email it to you. I think I could email it to you. I'll email it now to you. Right? As I hear, I'll email it now to you, right? Let me just take a note of the EMSR because what happened, these things, we have so much of them. So when you see the class finish, if I don't take a note of it, I would oh, it's 2024. It shouldn't be that hard to find, man. I have the 2024 in a folder. Let me just stop the recording before I embarrass myself here.